Well, Tew, welcome back. It's great to have you here. Tonight, I wanted to explore the concept of yin-yang because albeit that the founder of Aikido talked about it, in fact, he's famously quoted as saying to students, why are you so much better than us? When asked that question, he said, because I know more about yin-yang. But I've been around in Aikido for 36 years. And the number of times I've heard yin-yang talked about on the mat is probably twice, and then not in depth. So it's a piece of teaching that hasn't entirely been lost, because I've had people respond to this session saying, oh, well, we do it in our line, but it has largely been lost. But it's very central to what you do within your Tai Chi. So I thought, who better to ask to explain what it is, and the part it plays in Tai Chi. But let's start with that first bit. What is yin-yang? What's the simple explanation you can give us?
Yin-yang is the sense of complementarity. And it's really ancient. I mean, the first characters, Chinese characters for yin and yang appear in what are called oracle bones. This is pre-I Ching. If you know what the I Ching is, it's like one of the oldest oracles, methods in the world, if not the oldest. I think it's as old as the Egyptians. But anyway, even before that, before the I Ching, you have the characters of yin yang, which originally really referred to the dark side of the mountain and the light side of the mountain. The original characters are that. The light side of the mountain is touched by the sun, and the light, and the dark side obviously in shadow. But can I just sort of go sideways a little bit, because the little I know about your practice and your discipline, it's called Aikido, right? So the characters there are He in Chinese, He, Qi, Dao. So Dao is the way, Do. Qi is the energy, and He is harmonious, right? So it's He, Qi, Dao, Aikido in Japanese. And this is exactly what we're looking for in the whole vision that's guided by the notion of yin and yang. The harmony between the light and the dark, if you like, right? And so that's how it started, really. I think it had from the investigations I've made and what I've been taught and everything, it's originally was about farming and crops and stuff like that, and about feng shui, sort of geomancy, topography, where best to plant, where best to build a village, and so on and so forth. And then it developed. And by the time you got to the I Ching, you've got to look at the I Ching if you want to understand the yin and yang. By the time you get to the I Ching, it becomes really crucial to understand this dynamic between dark and light, between the forces of complementarity. See? Yeah. So when you go to the I Ching and you consult the I Ching by ritual, the ritual of the throw or the coins or whatever you choose to do it, what you will get in the answer is a kind of dynamic answer, dynamic message consisting of a firm line or a broken line, or a firm line which turns into a broken line, or a broken line which turns into a firm line. So these are really pictorial descriptions of this dynamic, this binary dynamic, between the dark and the light, and it has a certain rhythm. And this has been sort of at the heart of the philosophical vision, for the Chinese since way back when. And you probably know this, but the whole sense of the binary also affects us, obviously. We're talking now thanks to the binary system. And the binary system in the West was initiated by a mathematician who was born in the 17th century and then who died in the mid 18th century, called Leibniz. I think he was called Wolfgang Leibniz, mathematician who was sent a copy of the I Ching by a friend of his who was a Jesuit priest and who was amazed that, that the Chinese had got there sort of 2,000 years earlier. This sense of the binary dynamic, you know, this constant interplay between dark and light, between day and night, between masculine, feminine, and all the sort of complementarities that describe really the dynamic universe, this dimension. Right. So with regards to my own discipline, the Tai Chi means yin yang.
Does it?
Tai Chi is really the Tai Chi Tu, the sort of picture of Tai Chi is that famous one which everybody knows, you know, the sort of two fish, you know, the white with a dot of dark and the dark with a dot of light. This actually developed out of something much older than that, but it's always been about this dynamic, not a fixed, you know, the pure Tai Chi. Tai Chi originally meant the main beam of a building. A main beam of a building has two polarities, obviously, you know, one at one end, one at the other. But then you've got the middle bit. You see, you've got the interchange of the two polarities. Yep. And this for the early sort of, well, from the Chinese shamans to the early philosophers who became the Taoist philosophers as we know them. This was a kind of insight into how the whole world works, you know, this interchange. So you have a pure, let's say you have a general or pure sense of yin, which is night, and then yang, which is day, right? But then from their very empirical sort of mind and observation, you know, they saw that nothing is quite that simply divided. You know? So within the polarities, you have the, I'm going to use the Spanish word, matiz. Matiz means the nuances, okay? The nuances. So for example, there are moments in the night which are more active. That's when we usually wake up and start to worry about COVID and stuff like that. You know, that's about 3 in the morning when you've got a bit of yang in the yin. And then similarly, during the day at about 2:30 my time, it's yin time. It's time for a rest. It's not so active. See? So this has always been the kind of guideline. Now, when that entered the whole art of Tai Chi, which is a very rich discipline because it's not only a martial discipline, it's a spiritual discipline and it's a discipline of healing, then it started really to take on an importance, and particularly on the healing level, because it is at the sort of, it's the basis of the traditional Chinese medicine, you know, the sense of keeping the harmony between the yin and yang qi, the essential energy. So this is the whole point, that well-being or good health is described. You know, it doesn't completely describe it, but one aspect of it is that the energy that flows through your meridians, flows through your channel, is neither too yin nor too yang. Too yang being just like a, you know, excessive, hyper, you know, and too yin being too.
Oh, sorry, hang on just a second. I managed to mute you. You should be, sorry. Oh, I'll get my glasses back on.
Am I all right now?
Yeah, you are. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Did you miss the last one?
I just missed the last sentence, yeah.
Well, I've forgotten what I said.
Well, that gives me a chance to just come in with a couple of points. The first thing is, so within that symbol, there's a dot of, a round dot of yin in the yang and a dot of yang in the yin. And that's your point about it's never completely one thing or the other. So from a symbolic point of view, that's why those dots are there.
That's very important. This is a very important. And by the way, you when in your introduction, or when we were the first conversation, you used the term correctly. We don't say yin and yang. It's yin yang.
Yeah.
See, it's together.
Yeah.
It's always together. Yin yang is always together. So the lit up side of the mountain and the shadowy side of the mountain is the same mountain. Yeah, it's not yin and yang. Yeah. And the other thing, sorry, I'll answer you in just one moment, Dan. The other thing is you started with yin. That's how we start. We don't say yang yin, by the way. You start with yin yang, and later on I'll try and cover that point. Why yin yang and not yang yin?
I'm going to write that down to make sure that you do cover it. Okay.
You were going to ask me?
Well, I was more and more an observation that again, sort of kind of built into that symbol is the idea of balance. So it's a very central concept to what's going on.
It is, but it's an idea.
Hang on, just a second, sorry.
This is Derek wants to get through on Zoom to
It's
you.
the same number, I can't do it now.
He wants to talk to you, wants to take
I can't. I'll do it.
Derek,
It's the same one as always.
he says he can't, and he
Sorry about that.
Again, can you remind me what you were saying? I can remember what I was saying.
I was saying that balance was a central concept.
Yeah, right. Now, we have to be very careful about this because balance and harmony, in the whole vision of yin yang, is not a fixed. It's something that is constantly in motion, constantly changing. See, it's not like, I've reached a point of harmony and I've got a recipe for it. So I'll keep going now with this harmony. This is not what the Tao is about, not what the yin yang is about. The yin yang is a constant, it's almost musical, it's about flow and about resonance.
Yeah.
Because when we talk of harmony, which I prefer to the word balance, you're talking really about resonance. You're talking about musical. You're talking about, and this is very important as well. The yin yang is expressed in many ways in flow, as in the flow of qi in the meridians, but also we look at the organism as a resonant, as a resonating, organism, and the whole universe as resonating. So the whole point of harmony is that you maintain this. And this is where you are in harmony with the Tao, let's say, where, in a lot of the scripts, the writings and stuff like that, you'll find this sense of just try and keep in harmony, try and keep in harmonious resonance within yourself and with other people and with the surroundings and nature and so on.
So if I can put it this way, so just as we have night and day, and sometimes it's right to be in the nighttime, and sometimes it's right to be the daytime. Sometimes we need more yin, sometimes we need more yang. Depends on the situation, what's going on around us, as to how we find that harmony.
Absolutely, and the other, you can apply this on so many levels. You can take the masculine and feminine, So if you take it strictly as yang is masculine and yin is feminine, you'd really be getting what we are wrong, because within let's say being a man, I connect with my feminine parts, and within being a woman, you can connect with your masculine energies as well. You see? Right. And it's really, it's really the mix that changes through your life, and changes through your experiences and stuff like that. So nothing is fixed. This is the whole point. Everything is in this very rich dynamic.
Everything's in flow, constantly changing.
Constantly changing, and constantly flowing into one another, into one another. And this is what guides the practice of Tai Chi. In Tai Chi, because Tai Chi means yin yang, essentially, what we're doing through the movement of what we call the form, that we practice, is really not to represent yin yang, but actually to be yin yang, to live that. And that comes obviously with practice and with time. But actually it's very accessible. So all our movements of yielding, let's say, the circular movements, are yin, and the expressive or linear movements are yang. And if you can hear that, and eventually you are that, and it affects your health, obviously. It affects everything else you do as well, because you start experience everything, interchange with other people, or your creativity, let's say, the Taoists are very, very famous for sort of pointing out very worldly, earthly examples, not sort of yin-yang as a kind of extraordinary metaphysical, philosophical notion, but they'd say, go and look at how a good cook cooks a fish, to see the whole art, how it, and I think it's terribly important these days. I mean, talking about creativity, we have now the technology like we have here, right here, to stop, to rewind, to whatever it is, And if you're a writer, from time to time I write things, articles and stuff, when you have this amazing facility through the technology, sometimes it's very difficult to know when to stop fiddling with the text, because you can still go on without throwing it into the wastepaper basket like before, So the sense of yin-yang helps me personally to just really feel, intuitively feel, that's enough now, leave it alone, Do you see what I'm saying? And then I work with a lot of people who are, let's say, health professionals, therapists, psychiatrists, and so on. And the yin-yang has a great importance to them. Like for instance, to know through the body, not through your cognitive senses, not through your intellect or analysis, but to know intuitively through the body, through practice, of course, what is yin? To know what harmonious yin is and what excess yin is. See? Like lots of people who work with other people during this COVID now, for instance, the professionals who have to hear, and absorb so much intensity, intense emotions and stuff like that. They have to know intuitively when enough is enough, when they can't absorb any more. So just the other day, I was working with the head of psychiatry, one of the hospitals, who, because she had nowhere else to go, really, just came, and she's just overloaded. This is burnout, this is just burnt out. I'm really not knowing when to stop,
yes.
When to stop absorbing. See?
I think it's quite interesting, because COVID, of course, for the medical profession, they probably overloaded. But for many people, it's the first time they found some balance in their lives for a really long time, because they've been forced to work from home and they've been with their families, and it's been a bonus.
I'm absolutely with you. It's a gift in a way, to rest a bit, to rest, and to have space to develop, to cultivate stuff that you've spent years wishing you had the time to do. But then you have to, applying the yin yang there, you have to also be, how would you apply the yin yang to the COVID? Well, for example, applying the yin, you know, you have to know how much you can absorb from the bad news that they give you. You see, if you just, you know, overburden your whole system, just news after news after news, figures and, you know, confusion and incoherence of politicians and so on and so forth, that is going to affect you. That is excess yin, if you like, you know, of just receiving too much, absorbing too much. So you have to know how much you can absorb and not watch the news 4 times a day, for example, you know, or whatever people do. You see what I'm saying? And the other thing is also on the yang point of view, you know, what is your expression? How can you find expression? What is it you need to express? You need to project out of yourself. So it's very relevant. What I'm trying to say is not just a philosophical, nice Chinesey, Japanese sort of, you know, nice way of looking at things.
Yeah.
It's totally practical.
Yes.
Totally practical. And then when you talk of yin yang in the martial arts, you know, your martial arts is probably, I think I said this the last time we met, probably the closest to the Tai Chi there is, because it's yin first. It's very yin, you know. Aikido really develops the art of yielding, you know, listening, timing, and then yielding to the energy coming in. Then you make use of that. That making use of it is yang. So it's yin, yang, you know. And the Tai Chi, very much the same. The first thing that in the Tai Chi is martial arts, you develop the skill of yielding without being victim. You know, you yield, and then you turn the oncoming energy into something else. That's the yang part.
Well, that's beautiful.
Sometimes it happens immediately. It's not like yin and then yang. It's not receiving and then doing. It's receiving and then doing straight away. And there's a term in Tai Chi which is fa jin. Fa jin is when you receive it into you and, if you like, expel it in one go.
Well, you've answered one question which I was going to ask you is, okay, what's it got to do with the martial art? So you've introduced that subject. I think it would be useful to take those 2 bits, the yin yang, and they're associated with different qualities. And you've listed a few: light, dark, masculine, feminine, receiving, giving. What are the other qualities that are associated with those terms?
Listening and expressing. And this is, again, terribly important in everyday life. You know, there's a moment to listen, to be yin. You know, and there's a martial term for this. The Chinese term that's used not just in Tai Chi, but in many of the internal martial arts is Tingjian. Tingjian really means listen. It's not listening with the ears. It's listening with your full attention. You know? And this is the yin quality, the quality of having the space to listen, not just interrupting or arguing or, you know, putting your point of view immediately, you know, or defending or whatever it is people do, you know, in normal conversation, but just listening. Now, this is really important. You probably know that my main work is accompanying people, and you know, I train health professionals and family members and so on to do this work, being spiritual companions at the end of life, and a lot of it is just listening. But there's listening and there's listening. You can listen and try and understand, or you can listen. See, you can listen with yin, with spaciousness, with sensitivity, and just allow it to come into you, you know, and hear. Then you can hear something very often behind the words. And this yin quality, see, is where it links up to the martial. You know, when you're standing in front of somebody, you know, in a combat situation, in inverted commas, you know, the listening is total. You know? You're not caught up in some movement. The listening is the way that you approach situation or a person or a presence in totality. See?
So can I just, so then,
Quentin, can I just say something very quickly?
yes.
I just quickly looked up yin yang, and it said negative, positive, dark, light, and you said light, dark, and actually it's really quite important, because if we're associating a word, we need to get it in the right order. And is that right, Tew, that it's dark, light, negative, positive? And it's, to me, it's, as soon as you put it in the right order, everything you just said made a difference, because, you know, that yielding and then the positive action, that makes sense to me now, because the yin is the yielding and the yang is the positive.
Yes.
Sorry, I just wanted to make that point clear, Quinn, because I've always been confused by it.
Yes. And it's yin yang, it's dark light.
Yeah. Okay. Fortunately, I have remembered what it was I was going to say. I forgot it for a second.
Sorry.
It'll get worse with the years.
I was going to say, so that listening, as you're using it, is awareness through your whole being. It's not just an oral sense, it's your whole being.
And that's why we then talk about intuitive awareness. You know, intuition doesn't get a good press in a culture and in education, which is so sort of attached to the rational and the scientific and the material. So intuition is sort of like almost guesswork. But as you well know from your experience on the mat, intuition is everything. Intuition is sensing what is about to happen. How do you sense it? Not by thinking, what is he going to do next? The moment you're thinking that, you've probably done it.
Yeah.
You see? So you've got the sensing gives you the space and the time, you know, to then respond.
Yes.
And going back to a theme which we talk personally about, non-violence, you know. The yin quality is the base of non-violence, because if you like, reaction is yang. It's like, boom, boom, something happens, you react. But the yin quality gives you the space of exploring all possibilities and all options. It gives you that sense of spaciousness. So it can be, so this quality of yin, listening, receiving, yielding, without being the victim. Yep. Without being the victim means you're not sort of yielding and sort of collapsing. Yep. And this is where I think the training and the martial arts are so important, not for the martial side in itself, but it trains you not to lose your center. Yep. And to feel through, to be able to live the yin through the center, through the hara in your discipline, you know, through your presence. And then to be able to yield from that presence and to receive and to whatever happens, and then, you know, to be open. And the yang is really the response.
Yeah.
See, the response.
Okay. So you and I both believe that our practice is much more about daily life than it is about learning martial technique. And it occurs to me that if we listened, in your sense, more, we'd never get to the martial in the first place, because we'd resolve it long before we got to that.
I agree in part, but I would say that the martial, in my own experience, personal experience, but also with the many people I've taught in my life, is such a useful tool, because it reveals. You've probably seen this, you know, in your dojo, even between two friends, you know, the moment you're in front of each other in this situation, suddenly things change. There's a nervousness, there's a tension that comes up. And there's all these crazy sort of conditionings, which are partly part of our humanity, but I think partly part of our culture, which is the dualism between win or lose, yep. You know, win or lose, you know what I mean? It becomes dualistic. And I think what the martial part for me, I mean, I used to love fighting. I mean, in all aspects of it. But I used to love the combat part of the martial. I I still do from time to time, you know, get beaten up by my student. But I respect it so much as a situation that reveals our craziness, really, where the fear is, where the nervousness is, where the violence is as well, you know, because sometimes it can trigger something right there. And memories, especially, I mean, I work on so many levels with people, like on traumas and stuff like that, you know, people who've been traumatized and stuff. It's the way that this comes through as well. So I feel that the martial side is terribly precious.
It's a very powerful tool. We had a session a few weeks ago on how Aikido helps you work on your shadow. And that, I think, it relates directly to what you're saying, because your true self is revealed on the mat. The strengths, the weaknesses, you get to see where you're really at and to work on it.
The other thing is, I've met so many people in my life and in the sort of spiritual field, if you like, you know, who, in a way, they, from the best will and intention, they want to get to that peacefulness and non-violence, often without having gone through the SHIT that we all carry, you know, and it's can it be done? Yeah, I'm sure. I've met people who've not had to go through combat and martial arts to get there. But I think that most of us really we need that sort of jolt, you know, for it to be revealed to ourselves. Like, oh, I thought I was such a lovely, peace-loving guy, and I've got this in me, you know, and I've got war in me. I've got potential violence in me. And that recognition is very, very important. And then you know what you've got to work on, you see? So it's like, you know, we talk about compassion, let's say, or non-violence and compassion. You can't just bounce yourself in there because you've heard the Dalai Lama, let's say, you know? Much as that is good and inspires you, obviously. And the same goes for religion, you know? You can't base actions on just belief systems. You've got to, in a way, the transformation takes place in the doing, in the motion, in the yin-yang, if you like.
Yeah. We have a question from our audience. You were talking about, in your counselling work, you kind of just absorbed what, you talked about the therapist absorbing what's going on. And the question is, what do you mean by that?
Well, you absorb in the sense that somebody, let's say somebody is angry, okay? They come to you and they're full of anger. And part of the work, when I work with people as a counselor, I don't even call myself that, or therapist, much less. I don't work on that level, on that cognitive level. We usually work on an energetic level, you know? Like, for instance, somebody comes to me and says, look, can you help me? I have this syndrome, anxiety and depression, you know, and I'm taking all these pills and I just don't want to take these pills anymore. And I usually work on a very energetic level, yin-yang, a yin-yang level. And the first thing is to recognize where it is in the body, you know. Very often working with anxiety, people who are really sort of paralyzed by anxiety. This is very important. I say, where is it? Where do you feel it? And often it's here. It's about, you know, solar plexus, diaphragm level. You know? And then very often it varies from person to person, but just having the permission to express that, in sound. Very often it's in sound. And of course, when they express it in sound, you absorb it. If you're accompanying them, you absorb this. And you absorb their words, you absorb their emotions as well. And then the challenge is you have to do something with it. And very often people who work with others, they don't have the tools, they don't have the means to then clear themselves of it. On one level, to clear the vibrations that they've received. So the yin now is overcrowded, if you like, you know, and has no more space to listen to anything else.
Yeah.
You know? So a lot of therapists, a lot of psychiatrists and people, psychologists that I know, that's where they get to start burning out. They have no space. So energetically, it's recovering space. And to recover space, you have to have certain qigong, which may help you to express, liberate those vibrations, so on. So you get back to an emptiness. And the other thing is, talk of yin yang. In this vision, we never leave out the wu, which is formlessness, out of which yin and yang are born. This is the original vision, the formlessness, a sense of universal space or sacred space out of which things are born. You know? So this comes into play when you're counseling so-called people.
So you
bring back.
You're absorbing a lot of difficult stuff for a lot of the time. So when you've done that for a few hours, what do you do at the end of the session? Do you go away and do some breathing? What is it that you do to clear your system?
Well, on a personal level, after a Zoom session, I wash my face with cold water to get the because I'm absorbing this energy, right, through the face, mainly in the eyes. That's the first thing I do. And then if I've been, let's say, accompanying a family, which I do on a weekly basis, a family or an individual who's sort of entering their final stages, and that I've felt affected, you know, by the sadness or the grief, or sometimes the anger at you know, being in this position. Then I do my exercises. Then I do my 6 sounds or whatever qigong that's appropriate to that. Mainly it's about sadness. During COVID, it's been about sadness, the sadness of not being able to say goodbye, you know, the deep grief that's brought. And of course, if you work with people, yeah, you're bound to be affected, even through the Zoom, through the screen. You're affected by, you know, the resonance comes through the screen. The screen is not really a veil or anything. You know, you still feel the sadness, still affected by it. And the thing is that you can either choose to block it out, you know, or you let yourself absorb it, see? But then you have to know what to do with it afterwards.
Yes.
And that's, I think, things go wrong. A lot of people absorb, you know, out of their kindness or whatever it is, or because it's their work, but then they don't do anything about it. They just keep accumulating it. And that's a factor of burnout.
Well, many health workers are the people who smoke the most and have heart attacks earliest, and as you say, burn out.
Yes, and self-medicate and drink too much and so on, you know, all because really that they should have this preparation. It should be part of their training to have a preparation. The world has become more intense, more connected and intense. And then this COVID has really heightened everything. It's sort of like, you know, it's emphasizing, multiplied the intensity. So now that's why I'm working with various groups of health professionals, because it's not in their training, you know. They can have all their science, all their skills and their experience and everything. But on the human level, you know, they can't block this out.
Yeah.
Not with a mask, not with a shield or anything. It comes in. And this is where we are resonant creatures. You know, the term for this, the Buddhist term, I want to refer to the Buddhist term. It's a beautiful term for this body, this material body, is Hua Ying Shen. Hua means transforming. We're transforming all the time, right? We're changing all the time with age and with circumstances and so on. Ying means response, and Shen means body, right? So it's transforming response body. This is what the Buddhists describe this as. And this is a very important term. The Ying comes from a Chinese term which the Buddhists use, the Taoists use, which is Gan Ying. Gan Ying means resonance, literally resonance, but it consists of two characters. Gan means to stimulate or to move, and Ying means response. So we treat this, I mean, from this vision, a sort of Taoist Buddhist vision, we treat this as a very, potentially very sensitive organism that both emanates or radiates a certain resonance and absorbs resonance.
Yeah, so there's a constant flow of energy, and if you don't have that, that's going to lead to bad health, probably. Well, some sort of problem.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and that sort of goes for the body and actually outwards into all aspects of life, really.
And you know, the heart and mind, very important too. And people don't usually connect with this, that your thoughts also resonate. So, you know, bad thoughts, hurtful, violent thoughts also go in there, go out there, you know, contribute.
So another thing that goes on in Aikido is we talk about one point or tanden or center, and we never really talk about heart chakra or this chakra. I don't know its technical name, but I suspect that's fairly integral to Tai Chi.
It is.
So I wonder if you'd like to talk a little bit about how we keep those three in balance and what they each represent.
Well, you use the term chakra, which is really more to do with the Hindu vision and the yogic vision, and Tantra and all that. In the Tai Chi, in this Taoist vision, actually it's Buddhist as well, we really refer to three centers, which is the three, which is body, heart, mind. Okay, and again, good health, well-being is described as the harmony or the connectedness between body, heart, and mind. And again, intellectually, we can understand this, but very often we lose this harmony, you know, not necessarily through our own fault, but for example, if your work is very intellectual, you know, it's very intellectual, you are developing this, you're loading this all the time, and you can create a disharmony, an incoherence with the other two centers. You know? So let's say, in very practical terms, somebody who has a very intellectual job, has to think a lot all the time, has to absorb a lot of material in this, there it would be skillful to allow the other centers to be nourished, you know, the heart through, I don't know, art, music, for instance, you know, the body through Aikido, you know, and that way you keep a balance. You're not in here all the time. You know, we all probably have known people who've been just head people, and it's very, very difficult to relate to them. Very difficult, very often, for them to relate to anybody else because they're in here. And then you can have imbalance. I mean, if, let's say, your work happens to be so physical, you know, and then it would be skillful to nourish your head, you know, by reading some poetry or something like that from time to time. You know what I'm saying?
I do, yeah.
It's just a question of knowing that another way that in the Tao they look at this is to locate ourselves. Where are we, right? So where are we? We're here. That's simple enough. But what is here? Here is standing earth, breathing, and this is our man-woman organism, and then the sky above. And it's very obvious. But there are lots of people I've worked with over the years who kind of, let's say they've forgotten to look up at the stars, they've forgotten the sky, or they've forgotten the earth and they're kind of hovering, or they've forgotten themselves, which is the worst part. They've forgotten to be awake. They're just walking around asleep. You know? So when we talk about coherence, it's really about being just awake, just gently awake and harmonious in the sense of connected, coherent. And this was, by the way, the answer Mahatma Gandhi gave when a journalist who was really pressing him said, well, what is happiness then? And Gandhi said, it's being coherent. You're thinking and you're feeling and you're doing something in coherence. And by that standard, look at our world. Look at our world and look at where the unhappiness is. And look at COVID now. The incoherence produced by contradictory edicts from the government just creates so much confusion.
Yeah.
Emotional confusion. People don't know what to do in their bodies. They want to do something. They want to go out, hug their family, so on. You know, so this is the disharmony. So we can feel disharmony very well. Then through the practice, through the various breathing practices and then through the forms and then through your practice, I think then people get a taste of what it is to just be harmonious, just act as one unit. Connect.
Got a couple of questions. I'm asked, what kind of preparation do you do either before you go into what you know could be a harrowing session, or do you just sort of go in there and deal with it after the event?
Well, I start my day off with a Qigong, which I call a series of 5. By the way, I'm not here to promote this, but you can get hold of these things through my webpage, which is allmyname.com. It's all there. But I start the day with a series of 5, and it's something for the past sort of 20 years I've shared with particularly health professionals who have to, in palliative care, intensive care, hospice care, who have to deal with very intense emotions in the day. And there's a preparation that you can do 5 minutes, and I say my prayers. But without this, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it without preparation. And then at the end of the day, if it's been a very, very fraught day when, I've had to deal with very intense emotions, I do another series, about 5-10 minutes, to clean the vibrations, to bring back the harmony, the yin-yang harmony. And then I say some more prayers. And I give everything back to the universe. This is a trade secret, by the way. but the preparation in these many years that I've been working, but particularly the past 20 years when I've been in the death and dying field here in Spain and in England as well. I can't see how you can do it without this preparation. And I'm part of a movement where we're trying to integrate this into the medical profession as part of their training.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So I've got questions coming thick and fast now. Someone's curious about what your belief is when somebody dies. So there is this energy that was there and it's gone. What's your personal belief system on that?
Well, it's not a belief system. I don't believe. I'm totally convinced.
Okay.
Because I have so many experiences, and the people I work with and the families and so on. It's just too many experiences to negate, to sort of say, oh, it's coincidence, it's synchronicity, but in a sort of put down way, like people do. Look, I think I'll refer you to 2 books written by doctors, very famous doctors. The first one is by a doctor called Dr. Pim van Lommel, Lommel, who is a cardiologist, very famous Dutch cardiologist, who started off as a skeptic, who believed, well, death is death, That's how it all ends, you know, and that's it. But then, and partly in thanks to the modern technology that can revive, you know, people who've had heart attacks and so on, but people who've been clinically dead. I mean, no ECG, no brain, who are defined as dead, but who have come back. Then he started meeting people. That's the one, that's the book, Consciousness Beyond Life. Very worth reading. I usually give this to people who I work with who are preparing themselves and who are very scientifically minded, you know, rational minded people. I say, well, just read this book. Just if you've got time, you're lying in bed, just read this book. And it is really about a skeptical, scientific person who's convinced that something happens. You don't have to go into the Buddhists or the Taoists or anything, but something is released. An essential energy is released, you know, from the material. And then the other book that I'd like to suggest is a book by another friend called Dr. Peter Fenwick, Peter and Elizabeth Fenwick. And it's called The Art of Dying, literally The Art of Dying. And Peter was, you know, 20 years ago, sort of, they kind of made fun of him. They really went to town, you know, this man called him Dr. Death and all sorts of things. He, in fact, is he's a world expert on epilepsy, you know, and he's one of the directors of Guy's. So he's not some raving old hippie, you know. He's a scientist and a doctor, you know, with many years of experience, right? And you should read this book. It's wonderful because the two dovetail together. See, Pim works from this extraordinary thing, this extraordinary discovery that something happens, you know, after this essential energy leaves the body. And Peter works from the other side, that extraordinary things happen in the process of dying that we cannot explain by Newtonian science, by materialist, reductivist science, you know, but quantum physics gets close to this. You know, some things like synchronicity, entanglement, non-locality, telepathy, communication at a distance, all these things are charted. And he spent years investigating this. So this really, please read this if you're interested at all in this, you know, in this kind of field, because I think these are the two most important works that I know of. And then there's well, my personal experience and all my colleagues, you know, in this field, who have accompanied people and who have lived through extraordinary things. My own apprenticeship was in a hospice in my country, in the slums, accompanying children who were dying, all of them from secondaries, from AIDS at that time, about 20 years ago. And the things that I went through there and learned from them are still with me, really vivid experiences and so on, you know, which of course they're anecdotal in that sense that you're not going to be able to reproduce this in a lab, you know, and therefore rejected by many scientifically minded people saying, no, I can't accept that. Well, just don't, but spend a bit of time in a hospice or accompanying people, and then you don't have to believe or anything, you know, you can experience it. And it's happening every day. Something extraordinary happened just the other day, you know, with somebody I just accompanied who's just died. I won't go into that. But again, I mean, these things are so vivid, you know, become so vivid that you don't kind of, you know that you can't apply the same rational evaluation, and it doesn't matter, you know. It's just, do you trust experience? And do you trust somebody else's experience coming to tell you? I did a course once, many years ago, with doctors in Elche, in a town in South Spain. And the only non-doctor besides myself was this lady who came there and who had had a near-death experience, who had died, who had had a sheet put over her, you know, in an accident. And she was revived in the ambulance. And she had had one of these extraordinary tunnel and light and beings and so on, you know, but she'd waited 25 years to come and share it, because she said when she first started to share these experiences, of course, she was met with embarrassed silence or rejection. So she just stopped. Even from her own family, she couldn't talk about it. So she sort of took the plunge. She knew that we had this group on death and dying. She took the plunge and she came there, and in the sharing, something like this, but in a, you know, live situation, she said, look, I've really got to do this. And then she told us all about it, and all the doctors were there, and she said, I don't even need you to believe me or not. I just want to share with you that this was my experience, and it was a completely real experience, and it changed my life, and I have no fear of dying, and I've lived my life according to the experience that I had. Yeah. And all the doctors just clapped. They just clapped, you know, because many doctors who work in palliative care, intensive care, hospice care, and so on, they know that this takes place, that something you can't explain by rational mind, by materialist sort of vision, but it happens. It happens. And now more and more are coming out. More and more are beginning to talk about it. You know, the conferences that we do, the groups I belong to here, you know, all these health professionals come out, and all of them are now affirming this. And it's wonderful. It's very exciting, you know, and it doesn't, the point is that this kind of vision does not contradict rational, materialistic science, which is really useful and is still very useful, you know, but it completes it. Again, yin yang. The yin has been discarded almost, you know, and I wanted to make this point too before I forget. It's so easy to forget these things. I, on a personal, and this is my belief and my conviction, I firmly feel that the sickness that we have in the world, that's in a way focused on the COVID, you know, but it's not just the COVID, it's the sickness of our world. And it's a yang, it's excess yang, excess male, masculine, excess dominance, you know, expression, and alienation at the same time. What we've done to our planet, what we do to each other, the continuing wars, the injustices, all these are symptoms of sick yang, sickness of yang. And I feel that, you know, it's very important. I'm very glad I've got the opportunity to share this with you, to share this with a captive audience. My conviction that you know, we must nurture the yin. This is our way through. This is the healing, nurturing the yin in every aspect, you know, every aspect.
They're not as captive as you think. They can just switch the button off if they want to go.
Yeah,
I think you'll find that you've had a growing and captive audience, actually. If I can just move on with a few more questions, and I'm just going to read them out as they are, and you can make of them what you will. Would it be correct to say that yin tests yang and vice versa, and through this constant test of each other, does this help with the quest for balance within? Did
you use the word test?
Yes, that's the word that was given to me, so I've read it out as it is.
It's the first time I've heard this word used with yin yang. A test. I don't know whether I call it test. That's the only thing. It's a constant energizing of each other.
Yeah. It's like magnets, isn't it?
Interchange. Yeah.
Yes, this is an interchange. Yeah. Okay. When you do your Tai Chi, do you feel the yin and yang physically in the whole of your body?
Yes.
Okay. Is that a sufficient answer, or do you think it's worth elucidating on? It might well be just yes.
It takes time to feel that, you know. And here again, I think the martial training helps. You know, there's nothing like somebody coming in at you with a blow, let's say, you know, and you learn to receive that, actually make contact with that blow and yield to it, that you really can feel, yes, and trust, and begin to trust. You must have had this in your trainings, on the mat many times, you know, people discovering, oh yes, I can yield without collapsing, without being the victim, you know. You still have the power of yin.
So, can you advise if we need to ground ourselves, and if so, how?
Very easily. Would you like to try?
I think that would be fantastic.
Why not? A very, very simple practice, right? Takes you a few minutes. And this, by the way, is what I give to people I work with who are in anxiety as well. You know, because anxiety, in energy terms, you know, tends to rise, tends to make everything rise until you're stuck in the head and in the constructions of the head, and then the heart beats and so on. And it's here. So the sense of grounding is very, very important. And then this practice, just to put in quickly into context, this practice is also what I give to the health professionals right now, you know, so that they will not stay fragmented. Because let's say you're a nurse in a care home, you're looking after people, your energy is out there all the time. If you can't bring it back to the center and ground it, eventually this fragmentation is a factor in your burnout, in exhausting you. See, so grounding is not just a nice little idea. Again, it has very practical consequences on your health and everything. And then of course, you know perfectly well through your Aikido training, everything starts from the hara. You know, we start from the center. But the important part to complete that is that you must be able to return to the center. See, and this is what a lot of people in martial arts, you know, they need to learn. This is the internal work of the internal martial arts, is not just to be in your center and to be in your hara, your tantien, and move from there, but to come back after the interchange is over. And in this way, you're constantly renewing and conserving your energy. So again, just on the martial level, it's totally practical, but on the professional level.
So do you want to give us the exercise?
Let's do it. You have to get up and maybe see what I'm doing. So I'm going to move myself.
So folks, stand up.
I'm here. Can you see the whole of me? Yes? Can you see my feet?
No, we can't quite see your feet.
Okay. There you go. No, that's worse.
I think we'll be okay now.
What about here?
Yes, we can see your feet.
Okay. So very easy. And this is really a so-called Qi Gong exercise. Work on the Qi. And when we work on the Qi, there are 3 ingredients that have to be there. Your intention, which in Tai Chi is called Yi, your breathing, and movement. Sometimes there's no movement. But let's do this the most simple way. There are extensions to this, but this is a simple way, right? Hands out here. Breathe in and out through your nose or your mouth, as you like. The in-breath, draw the energy to the hara, but don't touch the actual body. Draw the energy down in to the center with your in-breath. Now with your out-breath, let go and sink. This is a word which we use a lot, sung. Sung means relaxing and sinking. So don't collapse, you know, but keep your back straight as you breathe out. Okay? And again, breathing in, keep the intention clear and very relaxed. And as you breathe out, let all your energy sink. Now, what do I really mean by sinking? Just pause a bit. By sinking here, we mean letting go of your thoughts. You know? So your thoughts, the energy of your thoughts goes down. All the tension in your arms, in your shoulder, in your back goes down. The emotions go down. Okay? All the energy goes down until you feel there are 2 points in acupuncture we call the bubbling well, the kidney, the first points of your kidney meridian. And they're in the middle of the ball of your feet, right? So at the end of your breathing, of your out breath, try and feel the connection with the ground through those 2 points. Let's start again. Breathing in and gathering to the center. Breathing out and letting go, letting everything slide down, flow down until you feel the connection through the balls of the feet. That's the important part. Breathing in and soon relaxing down, grounding. This is the groundedness. But the important thing, when you breathe in, the intention is to bring all the threads back to the center. All the threads that are connected with the outside world, back to the center. And breathing out, let everything sink. By all the threads, I mean all your responsibilities, connections, the work, the persona, you know, as Jung puts it. Everything comes back to the center. And as you breathe out, letting it sink. Just keep the intention simple and clear. And the attention is listening to what's taking place. How you're feeling as you're doing this. How does being grounded feel? How does being present feel? You understand it intellectually, but this is living the presence, bringing it to the center, and then sinking down to the ground, grounding the energy. Do it 3 more times. And to finish this little practice, put the hand on the lower abdomen, on the body, and just keep your attention on the expansion and contraction that comes with your in-breath and your out-breath, right? And then carry on with the practice. So your in-breath is centering, and your out-breath, you're sinking, again, down to the balls of the feet. So with the expansion, the center expands. With the contraction, everything compresses down into the feet. Keep the intention clear, and again, the attention on what is going on, how you're feeling this. how you're experiencing your grounded presence, your grounded, breathing, centered presence. Three more cycles of breathing. Last one. Now, just to finish off, just let your hands go free and just stand there doing the practice with intention. So the in-breath, your lower abdomen expands and you're centered. Bring everything back to the center. And your out-breath, you let the energy sink down to the ground. You ground. Just keep this going for about 5 cycles. So nobody knows what you're doing, but you keep the intention very relaxed and clear. Okay, sit here.
Thank you. It was good to do something. A bit of yin and yang in the session then. Carrying on with the questions. Do you connect excess yang and discarded yin to issues of patriarchy, sexism, etc., or not necessarily, but including politically? Or not I just shouldn't have said the after, etc., not necessarily, but including politically.
Well, yes, it's a short answer. In the way that I see patriarchy and most existing systems as an expression of patriarchy, you know, including the church, including the Buddhist church, for that matter too, you know, as speaking as a Buddhist. All of it is sort of pyramidical somehow, you know, and doesn't work very well either, you know.
Yeah.
Nobody really wants to carry on with this, you know. Yin is much more circular, you see. It's circular, and it's embracing. So I think that in a way, in the world, we're seeing a natural giving way, you know. But of course, in the last throes of patriarchy and the excess yang and sick yang, you're going to have a lot of resistance, you know, and possibly violence, you know, through that. So we are at a cusp. We're at a time, very crucial time, and I think that what we the values we live by and all this, you know, at the moment, the resonance, if you like, is very important. I mean, there is hope of healing and transformation now, but I think we've all got to put in a lot of effort, and particularly men, particularly us men who have been conditioned, you know, to have certain values which, you know, are really aren't really viable anymore.
One reflection back for you from Liz. She said, that exercise got really unexpected for me at the end. The muscles in my left arthritic hip suddenly unclenched. I hadn't been aware that they had been clenched. So I think you did some good for her. So we're going to have 2 more questions, and then I think you've been incredibly generous on your time, and we'll kind of close up.
I've got a Zoom in 15 minutes.
Well, that's our definite timeline. I try to give you a break between the 2. So firstly, you said it's yin yang, not yang yin, and you said you'd come back and explain why.
Yes. Again, you know, the original the original vision has the universe as a kind of feminine principle. In many of the texts, they say yin embraces yang. And in nature, we are born of the mother. The mother gives birth. So beyond the actual yin-yang dynamic, the universe is yin. The universe is the mother. Okay? And I think it's very important. And by the way, I don't know whether you use bows or not in Aikido, but in Taiji and in Kung Fu, we use this bow with the right hand, the left hand. And this is yin embracing yang. This is yang. This is yang. And this is the yin, holding it. And yin is always embracing it, holding it in front of it.
Yeah. We do have other questions, but I think it is appropriate to...
No, I'm fine for 10 minutes.
Okay.
I'm here.
So, are your prayers for you, your family, the world, the divine? Probably all of those, I suggest. So you're being asked who your prayers are for.
All of that and more.
Right.
I often, you see, I'm given, because of my work, I often get people who say, can you pray for my husband, for example, you know, and I do, but particularly if I know the person or I'm accompanying them, but maybe one day we'll have a chance to talk about what prayer is. You know, for me, prayer is not because I don't really go to the server, like the big server in the sky. That's not for me prayer. That is prayer. It's a kind of prayer. But by prayer, I mean something much more direct, much more connected.
Right. Would you like to just expand a little bit more on the relationship between intention and attention?
Intention is putting your consciousness in a kind of shape, okay? The shape of what you're going to do. We're talking about prayer. Prayer is intention. It's intention, right? It's like shaping a resonance, if you like. So I intend to move my hand like this, not like this, not like this, but like this. My attention is listening to what happens when I move my hand like this. Okay? Attention and intention go together, but intention is the shaping, if you like. It's the stimulus.
Is one more yin than yang, or are they both? Is it irrelevant to use those terms in relation to those words?
It is actually. It is. It's sort of, because in intention there's yin and yang.
Yeah.
You can intend yin, like in Aikido when you receive, or in Tai Chi when you intend to receive at that particular moment, not before, not less. See, and attention is the attention to the energy that's happening when you receive. So, you know, you can't kind of like separate them.
Brilliant. So you said at the beginning that Tai Chi actually meant yin yang. Well, I don't.
Tai Chi means yin yang.
You've been studying what, 40, 50 years?
Yeah.
Okay, and we've just tried to ask you to basket that into an hour and a quarter. I think you did a pretty good job. And I really, really, really hope that people could see the importance of the concept for not only their daily lives, but also their practice on the mat, and how the two are so directly related. I think you did a great job there, and in fact, I kept them silent, but I think they were a fairly rapt audience. So thank you so much. I'm going to open the microphones up so people can thank you, because I think they'll want to.
Something to to say at the end before Tew goes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Demetra.
Yes. Hi. Talking about yin yang, and in your introduction about how O-sensei, the teachings of O-sensei, the founder of Aikido, had been lost. And I happen to have in my hands one book written by one of his students. He's about 90-year-old now, Saotome Sensei. And he's the only one from his Japanese students who in his book, he is writing, and he also has the symbol of that. And the Japanese equivalent is Aramitama and Nigimitama. This is the drawing of Saotome Sensei. It's very interesting. He's the only one from the teachers I know who writes this in his book, the Japanese version of Yin Yang.
Well, I don't know if he wrote a book, but Henry Kono also was very big on teaching this, as I've been told by some of his students since I made my post. So there are schools out there that are doing it, but there are a lot of people on this call who have probably done Aikido for a very long time and have barely heard of that concept, or at least not expressed in the way that we've heard it tonight. Pia, so you look like you're about to speak.
No, I was just going to say thank you, Tew. Another wonderful session. You had me wrapped the whole way. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
An honor to be with you. Stay well. This is a big task. Stay well and nourish the yin in the world.
Sounds like
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nourish the yin.
Thank you very much.
Beautiful.
Wonderful. Thank you, Quentin.
Well done, Quen. Very well done.
Thank you, Quentin. Thank you.
I'm going to close the room, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Right.
Bye.